What is up, everyone? We're back. Our last conference preview show, our fifth one. We're doing the ACC today. We've done the other 4 power conferences. If you missed those, go back and check them out on the Run Pure Sports YouTube. I've got Gav back with me, and we've got old friend Mike Kutry's back. You know, he's done a couple of these preview shows with us. Good to have him back. But we'll start with you, Gav. How you doing, man? This is our last one. Season's right around the corner.
Yeah, I'm fully previewed out. I don't know how these guys do, you know, the 32 conference previews or whatever, but yeah, good to have Mike in, you know, friend of the show when he's not taking my damn money in the DFS streets. But yeah, I'm excited, man. Last one. Let's get it done.
Yeah, Mike, welcome back. Mike Kutry, CBB on Twitter. How's your summer? You know, how you feeling coming to the season? And talk about your new dub club that you got set up.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on the show, guys. Always, pumped to talk hoops with you guys. You know, honestly, I'm still trying to figure out if Gavin is actually a real human being or just some like college basketball AI chatbot that
an AI chatbot.
Yeah. But yeah, summer was too long, and I'm excited to get back into the swing of things come Monday. Yes, you did mention my dub club. I will be, again, just like last year, posting my premium content in Discord, all on the dub club site. You can find it on the dub club site under Mike Kutry CBB, and I'll be posting all my plays, including future sides, totals, but mostly, as everybody wants, the bread and butter is the player props. So we'll have all those locked and loaded over on the site this year.
Yeah, Mike crushes the player props, so make sure to get into his dub club for the season. All right, we got 18 teams to talk about, boys. So let's dive right in. We always go alphabetical order. The shitty part about doing that for the ACC is we got to start with Boston College. Gav, I'll start with you. BC 12-19 last year. They end up at KenPom 181st. Torvik's got him 104 to start the season. KenPom 90th. Good aggressive there. What do you think about Boston College coming to the season, Gav?
Yeah, you only get 4 wins in ACC play. One of them, you may recall, was the suffocation to a Virginia Tech team where they held them to 36 total points.
Yeah, that was sad.
Definitely couldn't just, blow past that. But yeah, it was Earl Grant's worst defense in 4 years by like 60 spots on KenPom. They finished 56 spots lower on KenPom than a team who literally ejected their coach. I mean, they barely were ahead of the largest ejection in college basketball in Miami analytically. So like it's just a disaster situation. You lose 4 starters, but basically there's kind of only a 2-man punch really that I'm going to touch on. Donald Hand, the returning starter, shot 37% from 3. Rebounds exceptionally well for his position. He's a high free throw rate guy. Only 20 guys in the country shot 150 free throws and were at least 85%. I'll be damned, Donald Hand is on that list. So yeah, he's going to have a much different role this year. And then Chase Forte of South Dakota. I mean, people might have seen when I profiled all these up transfers, especially from the guard side of things. And Forte, coming from South Dakota, he was 3rd in total rim attempts. He had 259 total attempts on the year. Only Terrence Brown and Donovan Dent had more, and those guys did it on an extra 20% of season minutes. So just the rate that this guy gets to the rim is completely insane. He also is a career 36.5 3-point guy. So I expect this to kind of be really the main 1-2 punch that we're concerned about for DFS. There might be some ancillary guys that dictate us playing them price-wise, but other than that, nothing inspiring further to say about this team.
Yeah, it should be the Hand and Forte show here, Mike. What are your thoughts on those 2 guys and anything else on BC?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this team. I have them clearly as the 18th, I'd say, worst team in this conference. Like Gav mentioned, it's really going to be just a ton of usage from Don Hand and Chase Forte. I will add that Don Hand shot sub 40% from the floor last year, so not the most efficient guy that had the ball in his hands a lot. And Chase Forte, like you said, comes from South Dakota, 34% usage rate over there. But South Dakota State, you're looking at their schedule from last year. They played 17 games against quad 4 opponents. They played 3 games against teams that were semi-decent, 2 of them being Iowa and Santa Clara. And Chase Forte had 5 points against Iowa, and he had 8 points against Santa Clara. So I'm a little worried about the uptick in competition for him, and he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot for the squad, moving to a high major program. But, the rest of the team leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, I like Aiden Shaw as a glue guy, but maybe with a lot better talent around him. Earl Grant, that's his 5th year here. I think the writing's on the wall and the seat's pretty hot. And, last year he was like rotating around his rotations a lot, and you can see he's getting a little worried. So, I don't think it's going to be a fun year here in Boston. So,
Yeah, they don't have much NIL funding, especially for the basketball program. I will say Ken Pom starting the year at 90. I think this team's going to be overvalued coming to the season. I know Gav already played FAU, I think, on Monday. For us DFS people, BC's on the first slate of the year. Going to love that.
They finished 181st on Ken Pom, and Ken Pom says we're putting them 90th down 4 starters. That is fucking egregious.
They're going to be way worse. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I'll be fading them early. The only issue is they play like 2 top 150 teams, all of the non-con. All right, that's enough on BC. Let's go to Cal. We'll start with you here, Mike. Cal last year, 14-19. They end up outside the top 100 at Ken Pom at 110. Torvik's got them 108 to start the year. Ken Pom 87th. They lose Stojakovic and Jeremiah Wilkinson, basically their 2 engines last year. They don't bring in much. Talk to us about Cal a little bit.
Yeah, they lose a lot from last year, but Cal finished 6-14 in the ACC a year ago under Matson, and I would argue with you that they were better than that record suggests. I think Matson got a little unlucky. The reason I say that is because if you look at the advanced stats, right, for Ken Pom offensive efficiency, they finished at 99th. But if you move over to shot quality has their offense ranked 60th nationally. That's like a 40-point difference. And then if you look at defensively, Ken Pom had their defense efficiency at 156, where shot quality had them at 67. So a massive jump. And the reason is because opponents shot friggin' 38% against their defense. So like the point I'm trying to make is, I think Matson can coach. I think he got a little unlucky last year with a decent roster. Yep. And I don't think that 6-14 record is kind of relevant of how decent they were last year. And on the offensive side of the ball, they don't turn the ball over, right? The way he coaches, they finish 2nd in the conference in offensive turnover percentage. So there's a lot to be desired with this roster. And we're going to say this a lot within this conference. But he took some chances with some of the transfers. Like Day-Day Ames has some upside coming over from Virginia. Justin Pippen as a sophomore maybe makes that leap after his freshman year, not getting too much burn at Michigan. He brings in 2 shooters with Chris Bell from Syracuse and John Camden from Delaware. And then Lee Dort and Petritis can potentially be solid defensively and protecting the rim. So, I think Matson's going to have a solid defensive team here. And, in the ACC with this like mishmash of these teams with pretty poor roster construction, like I think Cal can actually make some noise and finish around 500 towards the middle of the pack in the ACC here. Just purely from the way, Matson coaches and can control the tempo of the game.
Yeah, Gav, this team was bitten by the injury bug a bit last season. Thoughts on the roster here? I was kind of surprised that Petritis didn't have a better season. I've still got the light on for him to bounce back and have a good year here.
They improved, 25 Ken Pom spots. Mike was referring to kind of, more make-miss shot luck. Yeah, you talk about injury luck. BJ Omot missed most of the year. Stojakovic, Blackshear, Wilkinson all missed multiple games. The only 2 guys who played all 33 was Petritis and Dort. And I think Petritis is in for a much better year. Like he wasn't used as much as a hub like he was at Air Force, but this year he's got much better spacing around him. John Camden was one of 12 guys nationally to shoot 42% on over 200 threes. That is a legit fireballer. I don't care at what level you're playing at. And then, like Lee Dort, we mean him, but if you gave him the same haircut as Madi Sissoko and put the same jersey on him, you would not be able to tell the difference. I promise you. So you got, a decent front court with Petritis, who is Evan Mia's best BPR in the team by a country mile, with some much better spacing and shooting around him. And I agree, like Matson, I think is quite actually proven, even if Cal hasn't, been blowing the doors off. What the hell do you want from a school that has students living in trees? I mean, it's not the most high-powered basketball institution, but no, I do like them. I think they might be sneaky some of these games and sneak up on a couple teams.
Yeah, I do too. Let's go to Clemson here. Lots of losses for Clemson, Gav. Chase Hunter, Shefflin, Locken, and Jaden Zachary all out the door. 27-7 last season. They finished top 25 at Ken Palm. Pretty big discrepancy here between Torvik and Ken Palm coming into the year. Torvik's got him 52nd, Ken Palm 32nd. Where are you at with Clemson, Gav?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, COVID didn't exist the last time Brad Brunell coached a game without Chase Hunter. That's how long ago we're talking, like 3.5-year starter, elite point guard, shooter, creator, defender. Brad Brunell averaged a 58.75 Ken Palm finish prior to the back-to-back top 25 years that he just had. It was a top 20 defense. They were also top 10 in experience, top 100 in minute continuity, top 100 in height. It was a big, old, familiar team.
Yeah.
They only lose 2 games in regulation during the regular season. You lose by a possession to Louisville in the ACC tourney. You come out flat against the first half against McNeese, and boom, your all-in year is kind of up in flames. I think it's, due for serious regression. I mean, Nick Davidson, I like the guy from Nevada. Probably a much better number 2 to have than a number 1, but he's going to have to play kind of that Shefflin role. He played on a horribly spaced Nevada team. I don't know if Clemson's going to have much better spacing, to be fully honest with you, but he did make an uptick as kind of a hub big last year. And, we know he's going to get the ball in the post because Clemson's post-up frequency ranks last 4 years, 37th, 8th, 13th, 19th. Now, they had much better horses, between Locken, Shefflin, PJ Hall in that time.
Yeah.
But Davidson's going to be used, and then, it'll be Dylan Hunter, the likely point guard duties, like taking over for his brother. Broke his right hand at the end of the year. There is so much projection with this guy in terms of the minimal to almost non-existent usage rate, 12.4% in ACC play, to what he's going to have to shoulder this year. The draw is really defensively. Like his on-offs defensively are out of this world. But, I think the other thing with him is 31.2% from 3, but this guy's a 56% career free throw guy. That's terrible. Like, that doesn't make me feel like you're going to help space the offense. And then Justin Porter, undersized guy, mid-major. I don't know. I think it's definite step back. Brunell will kind of keep the floor high enough. It won't be kind of full implosion, but there's just no way to kind of replicate what they've done the last 2 years at any sort of level.
Yeah, Mike, this always seems like a continuity team, and this is just a different roster than what we've seen the last couple of years. I'm kind of worried about the ceiling of this team with what they've got. What do you think about Clemson?
Yeah, to your point, the ceiling's pretty low here, and it's an entirely different feel than what we're used to seeing Clemson over the last 4 or 5 years. And the way I think about Brownell's kind of career as a coach is it's kind of like a roller coaster, right? Like maybe 6-7 years ago, like his seat was pretty hot as a coach, and then he kind of turned it around with the Marquise Reed, Shelton Mitchell, PJ Hall, Chase Hunter years. That we've seen recently, finishing almost every year in the top 25 and defensive efficiency per KenPom. But I think the roller coaster is coming back down this year. Outside of Nick Davidson, this roster is not a high major roster. I think to Gavin's point, like they'll still be okay defensively and especially interior, but like that guard play, it's leaving a lot to Dylan Hunter and like a jump from Zach Foster, their freshman out the gate. Justin Porter and Butter Johnson, I just don't see them as high major perimeter play. So, I think, the Clemson of 7-8 years ago of like the Jared Blossom game teams, I think that's what we're going to see more from Clemson this year than what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, Gav, I know that you wanted to touch on Carter Welling real quick before we move on.
Yeah, I think this is a guy like, most people will, I think, more naturally flock to Jake Wallin and RJ Godfrey, right? Guys who come from other Power 5 programs. I mean, Godfrey literally played for Clemson 2 years ago. They're at least more known commodities and kind of within their roles. Wallin more the stretch 4, Godfrey more the interior bruiser. Welling is a really interesting player. He was the defensive player of the year in the WAC. There were 4 minute qualified guys last year who had a 20% defensive rebounding rate, a 7% block rate, and shot at least 75 total 3-pointers. You know the other 3 guys? Janai Broom, Nate Biddle, Zvonimir Ivicic. Okay,
wow.
So I look at the profile and I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then you go look at the tape, and this is like a pogo stick, 6'10" white guy who wears a headband. He is awesome. He can protect the rim. He can stretch. I think really he is kind of the upside piece and one of the best like underrated gets in the portal. I think this is an incredible eval. He does what Wallin does. He does what Godfrey does. He can do a little bit of what Davidson does. So he can play the 5, he can play the 4, he can play next to Davidson, which I think will be their best pairing. So I think Carter Welling is going to have an awesome year. I really like this guy for Clemson out of Utah Valley.
Yeah, Mike, 1.11 fantasy points per minute for Welling at Utah Valley. Guy,
just go watch the highlights on Carter. I keep getting Wallin and Welling confused, but like this is a guy who he gets closed down on the 3-point line, pump fakes, takes one dribble and flushes it on someone. You're like, what in the hell, white guy is this?
And Brad Brownell loves the high low too, right? So you'll see it a lot between him and Davidson.
He might be. There's a chance that he might actually even be better than Davidson on some of the analytical stuff, even if he's not seen as kind of the go-to main guy of the team.
Yeah, definitely the guy to watch early on here for Clemson. Let's go to Duke. We'll start with you on this one, Mike. Giving you a gift here. You get to talk about Duke instead of Florida State next. 35-4 last year. Torvey's got them second to start the season. KenPom down at 7th. Bunch of turnover. Obviously losing the freshman Flag, Knipple, and Malawach. Finally, Tyrese Proctor's out of our lives. Love-hate relationship with him. And, of course, with Duke bringing in a bunch of 5-star recruits and then some guys back for their sophomore seasons that I think are in for huge jumps here in Evans and Ngangba.
Yeah, so I appreciate you giving me a layup here with Duke. But so they're coming off a year where they were arguably the best team in the country. They finished number 1 ranked in KenPom. Really the coming out party for Coach Shire and the staff. I feel like they really figured out like how to mold the style of play, especially offensively, to their roster, where they're running much less pick and roll than they have been the first 2 years under Shire. They were getting Khan and Coop the ball like in the middle of the floor and giving them a lot of space to operate and make some plays. Statistically, they ranked 7th nationally in percentage of plays that ran through off-ball screens, right? Just goes to the point that they stopped running a lot of pick and roll. And, also the defense was incredible. I mean, you had 2 7-footers patrolling the paint, and you had, pretty good length on the perimeter with Sion James and company there. So the bar for Duke is really high this year, understandably so. And the question is, can they repeat that? I think this team is just as talented as last year, but I think it has a lot more question marks coming into the season. It's a really, really young team in a sport where teams across the country, especially good teams, are getting older with the state of the transfer portal, right? Duke doesn't have anybody like a Sion James this year, who's an old veteran, a glue guy that can really hold the team together. And can the freshmen between both Boozers, Kaminia and Sar, can they kind of replicate what Coop and Khan did last year? The obvious thing on a silver plate right here is looking at the 2 scrimmages and seeing the stats that Cam Boozer output has been ridiculous. And, I do think that Boozer, from an offensive perspective, is much more assertive than Cooper Flagg was last year. And I'm going to have a hot take that I think his stats this year are going to be much better than Cooper Flagg's was last year. But is he as good as a basketball player, as talking about full basketball IQ, as Coop was last year? I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's going to have the same defensive impact Coop had. I don't think he's going to have the same continuity impact that Coop had. So, like, if I'm looking at this roster from top to bottom, yeah, Caleb Foster can be a serviceable point guard. Isaiah Evans is a flamethrower from 3. Dame Sarr has a really high defensive upside. Boozer's going to be Boozer. He's going to be one of the best statistical bigs in the country. Big Pat is actually very versatile and can step out and shoot and be a good anchor defensively. You have some injury questions. Malik Brown still is dealing with, I think it's his shoulder. He hasn't played all preseason. And then Comedia has looked really, really good in my opinion. That guy's a dog. He's all over the floor, diving for loose balls, getting rebounds. So like the pieces are there, but it's just a lot of question marks. And with a young team like this, like I trend to bet more towards Duke maybe finishing more like that Kyle Filipowski team rather than that generational team that they had last year.
Yeah, it's a good point, Gav. This is a very, very young roster and a pretty old sport right now. Malik Brown, I think the only senior on the team. What are your thoughts on Duke this year?
Yeah, I mean, it was Mason Gillis last year too. I mean, I think people have to realize that last year's team was quite literally a generational team. It was the second highest rated KenPom team ever to the 99 Duke team with Elton Brand, Shane Battier, Trajan Langdon, and Corey Maggette. So there's just no way that's repeatable. Someone asked me, Mike, in Discord about how do you see the stats from Boozer to Flag? I said, scoring will be similar, rebounding will be higher, assists will be similar, stocks will lag. But other than that, it's going to be relatively close. I wouldn't be completely surprised just because that team was, like I said, generational. Had 3 top 10 picks in the NBA for, the less analytically minded folks. I just don't see where they have that on this team. Yeah, I think Ngongba is going to be huge, right? He only played 20% of season minutes, but has just some of the most mind-blowing rates ever. Obviously helping with the fact that he, did accumulate a fair amount of minutes in blowouts. But yeah, Sarr might be like one of the 5 best 3-and-D wings in the entire country. We know the defense will be at the highest level possible, and the 3-point shot looks fine. So yeah, I think it doesn't feel like kind of the no doubt number 1 upside that last year's team had. That's not to say that they can't be number 1. I just think that it's a thinner path. But we also aren't going to have other teams like Florida, like Auburn, like Houston. I guess we'll have Houston again, but some of these teams that were also like historically ranked analytical teams last year, with the departure of the COVID guys and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, the question with this team is what do they do from point guard play, especially against the elite teams they play all season long and that they'll play late in March, right? Is that Caleb Foster? Because he looks like he's wanted to still kind of be a catch and shoot guy. Like, does Caden Boozer have enough juice? I don't know. So, yeah, I think I've kind of warmed on him where I kind of saw him as more like 8 to 10, where now I'm kind of more like 5 to 7 range for him. But yeah, no, they'll be fine. They'll be right in the hunt of everything.
Yeah, and just like last year, it's a huge team too. Like they're starting 6'5", 6'6", 6'9", 6'9", 6'11" here, Mike. Just the positional size you could tell in a lot of, especially the conference games, was just a huge advantage for Duke. Any last thoughts here before we move on, Mike?
No, I think it's going to be tough outside of Boozer for the play DFS wise.
Yeah.
Because they're really deep as well. Yeah, but like you said, the ceiling defensively is has it been in the last few years is pretty massive for the team.
Yeah, and I'm not personally a Foster guy, so I'm hoping that Caden Boozer pushes him sooner rather than later for minutes. All right, let's go to Florida State. 17-15 last year, 87 to KenPom. New coach comes in, Gav. Torvik's had him 85th to start the season. KenPom 96th. Full turnover of the roster here. What do you think about the coach and the pieces that they brought in for Florida State?
Yeah, it's going to look kind of similar to the BYU model, I think. You bring in a former player, from an NBA staff. He was the Kings defensive coordinator and bench coach, Luke Locks. So I definitely expect the offense to look similar to Kevin Young, an NBA-minded, pace and space, a lot of threes, driving kick stuff. I think defensively, he might have a little bit more in his bag than just Kevin Young's will pack it in and try to beat you in a 3-point contest type defense. But yeah, I mean, the program will, I think be in a pretty good state. I feel decent about Locks. I mean, it was it was just getting so thin with Lenny. He's just not one of these guys for the NIL area, as good as of a coach as he was kind of back in the day. But yeah, I think really it all centers kind of around Robert McRae as the lead on-ball guard, usage monster last 2 years at Jacksonville. Now, keep in mind, the ASUN doesn't play a lick of defense. I mean, five out of 12 teams in the ASUN finished outside the top 300 in defensive efficiency. So keep that in mind. 192 rim attempts, but he was sub 50% at the rim in that conference. So that doesn't lead me to believe that he's going to have an incredible scoring year, but it's definitely going to be a driving kick centric offense that he will likely be the fulcrum of. And then they got a ton of shooters around. I mean, with Jay Jones from St. Bonaventure, 6'7", very high level elite. I wouldn't say quite elite, but very, very near elite. 3-and-D transfer, 38% 3-point shooter with elite stock rates, good low usage connector. Chauncey Wiggins from Clemson, right? Just your vanilla bang average stretch 4, 36.5% from 3. 100% of those were catch and shoot. He was assisted on. So we know that's going to work, within the scope of this offense. And then kind of the last shooter is Kobe McGee from Drexel, 6'6" wing. This guy shot 43% from 3 on nearly 180 attempts. He was one of 10 guys nationally to do that. So there's plenty of shooting around to kind of make this offense work. I think kind of implementing a similar type of defense that Young will do will at least not allow them to implode on that side of the ball. It'll keep the floor defensively relatively okay. And I kind of like Florida State, to be back in the middle of things. It's a weaker Power 5 conference, so I think they'll be definitely closer to the middle than the bottom.
Yeah, Mike, you can see the vision here with the construction of the roster, like Gavin was saying. Talk to us about Florida State.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting, and you kind of saw that last year, as Gav mentioned, with Kevin Young and BYU, and they play an exciting brand of basketball. And I think with that style, especially in a league like this, like they'll be able to compete on most nights. I do think the variance is going to be massive, though. Like I can see this team going into Louisville or Duke and taking them down to the wire, and then I can also see them having an off shooting night, shooting 35 threes and losing to Boston College, right?
Losing to North Florida in a game where there's 95 3-pointers shot.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, I think we should expect a ton of variance from this Florida State team, which could be beneficial if you're thinking about DFS. I know you always are, Steve.
Yeah.
Gav already touched on the roster. Like a lot of these mid-major up transfers here, I think were productive players, and I think a lot of the production can transfer over. One guy I will mention is who should start at center is Alex Steen, who's a Division II transfer up. Reports have been really positive for him at a Florida State camp. And if we know anything from Bennett Sturts last year, Division II transfers up can be successful in college basketball. So Alex Steen is somebody I'll keep an eye on here. He's a very versatile big guy. I think he's 6'9", 6'10". But I think defensively, they're very thin up front. They can get pushed around, especially think about a team like UNC. They might get dominated on the boards. So I think that caps their ceiling a little bit. But yeah, this team is going to be fun. I think the trajectory for the program is in the right direction. But it's going to take some years to get there, and you could see some pretty bad performances from this team as well.
Yeah, I agree. A pretty wide range of outcomes team, kind of in general and on a night-to-night basis. Steen's a good call. I know the Basket Under review guys are high on him too. Average 18 and 10 at the D2 level. Got to look out for early on. Let's go to Georgia Tech. 17 and 17 last year. 103rd at KenPom is where they ended up. Both Torvik and KenPom are expecting a bit of a jump here. Torvik's got him 86 to start the season. KenPom all the way up at 70, Mike. Talk to us about Georgia Tech.
Yeah, 70 to me is ridiculous. The good news for Georgia Tech is that their front court is really good. I don't know how he brought back Bey Ndongo, especially he kind of handcuffed him a little bit last year. But the guy is super, super productive if he can stay on the court and not foul, which is a huge problem. Every time we play him on DFS, the guy can't stay on the court. But as far as production-wise, he's one of the more productive big guys in the entire conference, I would say. They bring in also a highly touted freshman, Mosia, super freak athlete, should also contribute in the front court and provide some rim protection. They finished last year in KenPom 33rd in 2-point field goal percentage defense, which is pretty good. So, like, I think the defense will still be there, especially packed in the paint. But, I mean, if you look at this perimeter, like they bring in Lamar Washington from Pacific, and then the other two guards that probably play a lot of minutes are Jaden Mustaf and Kawashi Reeves coming back from injury. Maybe some Cam Kraft from Miami, Ohio, but he's more of a shooter. And, like, if you look at Coach Stoudemire's style of play, he runs a ton of pick and roll, and a lot of offensive generation comes from the perimeter kind of making plays. Like, think about Nick George last year. Like, I don't know who's going to do that for this team this year. And, like, they have 0 ball handlers. So I can't see them scoring enough points to be competitive in the league. I have them finishing towards the bottom. I think the seat for Coach Stoudemire is going to be pretty hot after this year.
Yeah, the good thing for us, we won't really have to worry about them in DFS at all. They play 3 top 100 teams in the non-con: Georgia in the game that they always play, DePaul, and Mississippi State. So very, very easy non-con. You know, it'll give them time to kind of figure out the backcourt. Gavin, I've got concerns about spacing on this team. Do like the front court. You know, they did just have cluster injuries last season, which really, really hamstrung them. But I just don't see the 70th rank that KenPom as even like their ceiling outcome here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I figured out the best way to articulate how ravaged by injuries this team was. And the best way to frame that was by saying they had to start Ryan Mutombo in actual ACC games that count on their record. Like, I couldn't imagine a worse feeling of David Stoudemire than looking down the bench and saying, oh, boy, I guess it's Mutombo today. On one hand, they went 10-10 in the ACC with that team. On the other, they were analytically lower than 3 teams that had worse ACC records. So I do kind of like David Stoudemire. I also think this team is the poster child for piss-poor roster construction. You pair 2 not even non-shooters. Like, I mean, Ndongo and Silla are probably only rim runners and dunker spot guys. And you pair them with a sub 30% from 3 guy and Lamar Washington after – we're going to talk about Nate George later, and I'll get into some of his stats, but he was much better, at least solo creating, was much more efficient from 3.
Yeah.
Lamar Washington does have a high free throw or high assist percentage, but like Cam Kraft's really the only shooter on the team. And he will be one of the worst defenders in the entire ACC. So leave him out on the court as long as you want at your own risk. Yeah, I think Ndongo is interesting, right? He's another guy. On one hand, he was one of 2 high major underclassmen with a 10% offensive rebounding percentage and a 22% defensive rebounding percentage. And the other guy, I bet 10-1 to win the damn Player of the Year in JT Toppin. So that's one side of it. On the other, he did not have rate improvement anywhere from freshman to sophomore year. Not rebounding, not blocking, not 2-point efficiency, not showing any sort of game more away from the basket. So I don't know. He might just kind of be relatively tapped out. But at least the thing they have going for him is, you know, a lot of these teams are going to kind of more the 2 bigs, you know, elite rim defense, be good at the rim both ways. They'll have that at least. Other than that, I have no idea what they got. So yeah, I'm definitely down on this team, and JVC might want to buy the coffin now.
At least his football team is good. It's good at Louisville. Very exciting team here. 27-8 last year, 28th at KenPom. Torvik got them 11th to start the season, KenPom 14th. A lot of people high on Louisville coming into the season for good reasons. We'll start with you here, Gav. Thoughts on the roster build? You know, they lose Chucky Hepburn, who had just a fantastic season last year, but man, this team's got shooters upon shooters.
Yeah, good. If Kuchar got Duke and Louisville to start, I would have filed an HR complaint. So I'm glad that changed. But I mean, dude, this last year was Chucky Hepburn and Javon Hadley were the only 2 guys who came from a Power 5 conference. It was a bunch of mid-major guys. They go 18-2 in ACC play. He finished 28th in KenPom while being the second unluckiest 3-point offense on shot quality. No further evidence by their 27.6% 3-point game against Creighton in the tourney, where they lost a 3-point shooting contest. But from the beginning of the season to January 19th, they were 30.7% from 3. From January 20th on, they were 35.8%. So they did kind of start to come around, and now it's a big boy portal class, boy. Woo.
Yeah.
I won't take them all because there are some good guys to talk about, and I'll leave some for Kutry, but I'll definitely start with Conwell. I mean, Ryan Conwell has a claim to being just one of the best pure scorers in college basketball altogether. He's elite off the catch. He's elite off the dribble, scores from three, efficient at the rim, you know, is a tough shot taker, tough shot maker, gets to the free throw line. There's nothing to hate about his offensive game, especially. And he's not even a bad defender, but getting in a more open floor system with Kelsey will only help him. And then you pair him with next to a guy who's probably going to be a top 10 pick in the draft, Mikael Brown, just a 6'5" elite shooting point guard who looked terrible against who did they initially? Kansas,
yeah.
Right? And then just, you know, fried Bucknell to Kingdom Come, which, you know, he should. But yeah, those two. You had Isaac McNeely, you know, one of the best movement shooters in the entire nation. Isaac Trotter, who was on the show on Tuesday, I heard a stat from him that he shot 6 transition threes all of last year. He
That's
may
crazy.
do that. He may do that in game one. Like literally may do that game one. So yeah, he's only going to be, you know, aided by moving away from a shitty Virginia team with bad offense to a Louisville team that only wants to bomb away. So yeah, if Kutry wants to jump in on some of the others, feel free.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, Gav, this team is loaded, absolutely loaded. And like, I think out of any team in the entire country offensively, I like the construction of this roster. I would put it up against anybody offensively, right? Yeah. I mean, you touched on the flamethrowers already. I mean, like the shot making of this team is insane with those top 3 guys. And then you add like some more role players into the mix that can all have great impacts for what they do best. Like Javon Hadley, I think, is one of the better role players in the country. Like he's very focused defensively, undersized, but a beast on the boards. Like doesn't take too many shots. And then like off the bench, you got a guy in Adrian Woolley, who's very young, but can be secondary ball handler next to Mikael Brown. You have Kayshawn Pryor, who was one of the more productive offensive players in his points per minute stats in the country. You got Ali Khalifa, who, you know, the one thing maybe this Louisville team is missing is like a bigger guy to run offense through, but you can bring Khalifa in off the bench if he's healthy, and he can just be primarily a facilitator from the center spot. Like Connie Ruths is a microwave off the bench. I mean, you got so many pieces and so many different toys that Pat Kelsey can play with that like this team is going to be almost impossible to guard. Now, the big problem with this Louisville team, or red flag you can say, is that defensively, there could be some holes, right? They don't really have any perimeter stoppers between Brown, Conwell, McNeely on the perimeter. Is Sananda Frew, the international import, going to be that rim protector that they need? And we know Ali Khalifa isn't. That's the big question for this team. And that's what is going to limit their ceiling if Pat Kelsey can't figure it out defensively, whether this team is like a second weekend team or do they have the ceiling to win the whole thing and make the Final Four. It's all on the defensive end. But I mean, as far as like from a pure basketball perspective, this is probably going to be the most fun team to watch in the country.
Yeah, it seems to be awesome to watch. Mm-hmm. I worry about games where, you know, they don't light it up from 3. They played 2 exhibitions now, and their 3 guards have a combined 6 2-point makes in those two games. 46 of their 62 shots the other night were 3-pointers. I'm excited to see what they do with Pryor. He was off to a burner start last season, Gav. 1.17 fantasy point per minute is up there with some serious dudes. Like he's got basically the same fantasy point per minute as guys like Nate Biddle, Avicic, Adai Mara, Terrace Reed, Owen Freeman, Alex Condon. So, like, I hope that they start him at the 4. You know, he can get a little greedy with the usage at times. So, you know, we'll kind of see how that works. But I think that he unlocks just kind of more upside with him being in there. Thoughts on him? And, you know, I know you want to talk about Frew and wrap up Louisville for us.
Yeah, I mean, prior off the ACL, he's also a guy that any given possession will make make your jaw drop or make a coach, literally pull out the final follicles of his hair. I think the thing is that one, it was a much different Louisville team depth-wise. It was basically Chucky and Terrence Edwards in the backcourt, and now there's way more firepower. So one, you don't need him as much offensively. Two, Ollie Khalifa being back. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Kansas scrimmage. I mean, they were spamming so many high elbow back cuts. Like, clearly they're going to be trying to use that. Khalifa will have a role. It's probably not going to be like 20 minutes. It'll probably be 12 to 15 to run kind of specific type of offense. And then Frew is going to be your best rim protector for sure. I mean, it kind of, when summer started, I was like, oh, they got some European freshman. They're definitely not going to be able to protect the rim. I mean, this guy is a 22-year-old grown-ass man from a really good league who was already productive. I think he's kind of similar to, now I don't want to say DeRitter, because DeRitter's way better offensively and more power forwardy, but I think he's going to be their best rim protector, so he's going to have to carve out a role as well. So the ceiling for Pryor is just kind of capped to some extent. Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add is, Woolley, I think, will get more minutes because he'll be their best backcourt defender, and he's probably a 1-4 switch. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's also 40% from three and 60% at the rim, like extremely efficient. And the only freshmen in the country who had a higher BPM than him last year were literally all first rounders. Like, just go through the freshman first rounders, it's that entire list. There's just so much. I initially in the summer, I was like, oh, this defense is going to be terrible. And I'm kind of warming to the fact that they'll at least be good enough, because this is just a mortal lock top 5 offense, probably top 3 with UConn and Purdue, and definite number 1 upside. I mean, they're going to lay 100 on a lot of teams this year. But the 0 dunks in the first scrimmage kind of worries me, and more speaks to, how easy shots are they getting inside the perimeter? And if they're not getting those, then you're going to have more variant shooting disparities game to game. So that's my kind of final thoughts.
Yeah, and just to add, Gavs, sorry, Steve, but after watching tape on Mikal Brown over the summer, I thought he would be more of a distributor, but he is also a flamethrower from 3 as well. He does the same things that Conwell and McNeely do. They all just are bombing up threes. So without that one, if you had the 2 of top 10 shooters on your wings, you would hope that your point guard would be more of a, hey, let me get these guys the ball in space. But he's trying to do the same things they're doing too. So the offensively, I agree they're going to put up probably 100 a game, but there could be times where it's just hey, we're taking too many threes, and the variance could be pretty high.
Yeah, I think that's the concern. We'll definitely know early with Louisville. They've got a really, really tough non-con. I think at least half a dozen top 50 opponents, including one of the best games, I think, in the first month, Kentucky at Louisville on November 11th. That is going to be awesome. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to Miami. Full eject year last year for Miami. 7-24. They finished 193 at KenPom behind BC, which is what Gavin was alluding to earlier. Bart Torvik's got them 55th to start the season. KenPom 76. Pretty big range there, Mike. We'll start with you. Full roster eject here. Jai Lucas is the new head coach from Duke's bench. Brings in a bunch of good transfers and a top 25 freshman. What do you think about Miami?
Yeah, so this is another team, kind of we alluded to a little bit with Florida State, with brand new coach, and the variance of outcomes can be pretty wide here. As you mentioned, Jai Lucas starting his head coaching career after leaving Duke early last year in a weird series of events. Lucas was more regarded as a recruiter there over at Duke, and not really the X's and O's guy. So, it'll be interesting to see what style of play he goes with as the head coach. But it's kind of hard to say no to Miami. You got endless amounts of NIL money. Recruits definitely want to go there because it's Miami. He put together a pretty serviceable roster. Nothing to write home about, but especially in a league like the ACC, I think the upside is there. The backcourt of Trey Donaldson, who's serviceable, and True Washington will actually be one of the, if you look at the rest of the ACC, probably one of the better backcourts in the conference. And then you got guys like, I'm the biggest Malik Reneau stan out there. After a few years under Mike Woodson, I think this is going to be a big sigh of relief, and we're really going to see his full potential here. I think a lot of the offense is going to run through Malik.
Yep.
You bring in Ernest Uday from TCU for defensive purposes. He's probably one of the better defensive bigs in the conference. And then you have two stud freshmen coming in, both top 25, in Shelton Henderson and Dante Allen. So, like, the talent is definitely there. A lot of question marks here. But I think the defensive upside is pretty high. But the big red flags for this team is going to be floor spacing. There's not a lot of great shooters on the roster, and you're going to be forced into playing two bigs at the same time. So we're going to see a lot of Malik Reneau and Uday on the floor, and a lot of probably bricks from this backcourt. So yeah, a large range of outcomes for Miami. But I'm pretty bullish on how they finish in Jai's first year.
Yeah, I think the defense is going to be better than projected. Gav, we have a note here. They're projected like 90th on Torvik. I think with this roster that they're definitely going to be better than that defensively. Good to hear that Mike is high on Reneau, because I know both of us are coming in. Talk to us about Miami.
Well, we just drafted Reneau in season long, so I hope he's going to be good. But yeah, you mentioned it, the defense. Inherently, there's going to be some of Ken Palm's rankings that are going to incorporate some of last year's stuff. And Miami was like the worst Power 5 offense we might have ever seen. I can't remember exactly the rank. It was like 320s, 330s, something like that. But if I'm Jai Lucas, I am ripping everything out of that locker room. Not just the couches, the TV, the cupboards, the lockers. I'm talking the wallpaper, the carpet, the stucco. It's going to look like a Category 10 hurricane went through the locker room. I want to remove all stink from – it was not even an eject. It was a pilot just saying, drop all two engines onto the ground and let's just cruise to crash. But I do kind of like this team. There are definite offensive spacing concerns, and Reneau just came from a team with definite offensive spacing concerns. But all the main four starters were all 87th percentile or better, defensive, regularized, adjusted plus minus on CBB analytics. And Sheldon Henderson is billed as a freak athlete, like looks 22-year-old type freshman wing defender. So like this defense could be really good. Now, I was going to say kind of like, top 50, but this may even have like top, do I say 25? This defense has a chance to be really good. Reneau is kind of, I think, the piece that is going to have to unlock this, right? You get him away from Mike Woodson. That's certainly going to help. He had, an ankle injury that he also battled through all last year. He still improved his O rating, still improved his rebounding both ways, lowered his turnover percentage while maintaining a 19% assist percentage as like a hub big. They're going to have to create a lot of offense through him, because it's not just going to be scheme sets getting shooters open, because that's going to be the worry, is the level of shooting. Dante Allen is getting some pretty good pub. I think he might be the other freshman other than Henderson to really to carve out a role here. Yeah, it's like, just the question is, how do I feel about 50th? I thought I was going to be high on them, but when that kind of came out, to see him inside the top 50, I think they definitely can, but I don't know if they have a ton of ceiling really beyond that. But Uday, elite defender. True Washington has like all ACC defensive team upside off the ball, 4+ defensive BPM, 4+ percent steal rate, and he even shot 33% last year. So yeah, I kind of like me some Miami this year, but I don't know how much more than low 50s.
Yeah, very soft non-con here. Only three top 200 teams in the non-con. They play Florida in mid-November, BYU and Ole Miss. So, they'll have some time to kind of figure things out with the new coach and the new roster. Let's go to North Carolina here. 23-14, 31st at Ken Pom. That's where they ended last season. Torvik's got him 18th to start the season. Ken Pom right there at 33. The RJ Davis Saga's over. Cadeau transfers out. Jackson transfers out. Van Allen Lubin we'll talk about later. Gavin, what do you think about Carolina? You can tell that they Hubert kind of wanted to go back to like the classic front court driven UNC style teams here.
I'm actually going to leave Kutry the players on this round because I think the macro around this team may be kind of the most important thing, right? UNC signs Hubert Davis to a secretive extension in the dead of night, like over Christmas break, I think last year.
Yep.
But I mean, he's like one of the top guys at the discussion of kind of the hot seat, right? I think my rub with this team and Hubert is that the roster's skill set does not really match the scheme that Hubert wants to run, right? It's not just missing RJ and missing Cadeau. I mean, he's kind of in, an NBA guy hunting mismatches with a lot of on-ball creators. And there's just not really on-ball creators on this team, is really the worry. The other thing is, I think on the other side of the coin is like he's really been searching for a stretch four ever since Brady Manick, right? The power forward that kind of, helped really mostly spark that Final Four run, as good as Love and RJ and Baycott were. But, I mean, he was a large part of it. And now we kind of may have found it, not with a stretch four, but with, Henry Visar, has that ability, and Caleb Wilson, the shot may be further along than we think. So I think it really comes down to Hubert's going to have to coach a different way this year. He's not going to be able to just spam ball screens and kind of run the same type of offense that he did last year and expect similar type results, because the offense has never been the concern of this team. Other than the team that won the ACC with Baycott, that was a top 10 defense. He's been outside the top 35 the other 3 years. So, yeah, on the offensive end, I just worry about how does he fit? He's really going to have to adapt later, a couple years into his career, and his ability to do that will more determine North Carolina's outcome than the mere players on this roster.
Yeah, what do you think, Mike?
First, I guess I have to shout out Gav for the Brady Manick poll. Love that guy. That was awesome. Yeah, I absolutely agree. But do I think Hubert is going to change his style of play? I don't know. Didn't certainly look like it in the scrimmage against BYU that I watched. To UNC's defense, I do love their front court, and it's kind of feels like they tried to overcorrect for the lack of front court they had last year. Visar is awesome. I personally love Jaren Stevenson. I think he's a great two-way player. I think he was just kind of mixed a lot with a super talented Bama roster last year, but I think he's a great basketball player. And then we saw Caleb Wilson kind of destroy BYU, where, the reports coming in were that he was still raw. It's going to take a long time to come along, but he's dropped 22 and 10 off the bench against BYU. He looked really, really good. But, like Gavin said, like the Hubert offenses relies a ton on guard creation. And you look at the guards on this team, and you bring in Kyan Evans from Colorado State, who basically was just put in a very safe Nico Medved offensive machine where almost everybody has success in. Is he that kind of guy that can come off a pick and roll or come off ball screens and create? I don't know. Early production in the scrimmages, he was basically splitting time with the freshman Derek Dixon. So I don't think that even Hubert right now is super confident in him running the team. And then on the other side of the ball, you have Seth Trimble, who's probably one of the more, I think he ranked one of the highest ISO rate scorers in the entire country, which, it doesn't surprise me from a Hubert Davis run team. But, you have, really lack of point guard play, and then a super high usage, which I think from a DFS perspective, Steve, Seth Trimble's going to, especially in the beginning of the year, is going to put up some big numbers.
Yeah. But
more from a pure volume standpoint, like an inefficient, ball-heavy shooting guard. Like, I don't think this is a recipe for a successful season with this roster construction. I love the front court, but the perimeter, it makes me worry a lot, especially with the way that Hubert has generated offense over the last few years.
Yeah, I've got the same concerns that you guys do. I'm excited for Visar. Caleb Wilson really, really jumped out during that exhibition, but the backcourt's a huge concern here. A lot of places have Carolina, 2 or 3 in the conference. I don't have them there. I kind of like the next team that we're going to talk about here more, NC State. Gav, we'll go to you first here. Or no, actually, it's Mike's turn. NC State 12-19 last year, 120th at Ken Pom. New coach, Keats is gone. They bring in Will Wade. Hell yeah. Torvik's got him 39th, Ken Pom 38th to start the season. Full roster eject, but does some work in the portal here, Mike. What do you think about the roster and NC State this year?
I wish I had my sunglasses to put on for this breakdown. The American gangster, Will Wade. Guys coming to the ACC to save the conference after one of the worst ACC seasons of all time.
Yep.
What's fun is that Will Wade can now make some strong-ass offers legally instead of illegally.
And he did this offseason.
And he did, yeah. So I love the roster construction. I think this team is going to be so tough to play against, especially defensively. They have length on the perimeter, and it's like the construction pairs really well with the way that Wade can kind of pair like some of his like mismatch weird amoeba zones out there and slow teams down. I think they're a little undersized down low. Like their big guy is Van Leuven, who actually, as he got more playing time for UNC last year, was super productive, but he's a little undersized for a center position. And from the perimeter, I do like the individual pieces, but they really don't have like a guard that can create offense. And you know how Will Wade likes to really muck up the game. You still need that perimeter creation in the way that he likes to play. And like they just really don't have that. Like Trey Holloman's more of a quarterback than a playmaker. Alan Breen's coming off a major injury, so who knows what you're going to get from him. Terrence Arsenault is more of a 3-and-D guy. He's not really going to create. Super freak athlete. Paul McNeil is really just a shooter. I know reports of the freshman Matt Abel has been really promising, but he doesn't seem like he's a creator either. So like I don't know who's really going to generate the offense. I think a lot of it's going to have to go through Darian Williams. But like if you look at like Darian Williams, Arsenault, Copeland, like that's just so much length. Like Trey Holloman's a good defender. Like the defensive ceiling on this team is massive, and I think in a league that doesn't have a ton of talent, they can make a lot of noise in this conference. I think NC State's going to finish top 3 in the conference.
Yeah, same. Ken Palm's got them 36th adjusted defensive efficiency. I would be shocked if they aren't top 25 with this roster, Gav. Really like the pieces. Same concerns with the front court. But, man, there are some fun players on this roster, Gav.
Yeah, I think kind of my favorite. I guess that would be other than Darian Williams, who was one of the 5 best players in the portal. I guess we should probably mention him, right? Just do it all for that. The offense is going to mainly be generated out of whether in the high post, whether in the low post, as a hub big. They got a lot of ways to do it, around him. But my favorite is Terrence Arsenault. Like, dude, you know what Terrence Arsenault reminds me is when Tari Eason came to Will Wade from Cincy to LSU as just an absolutely wretched offensive player with really good defensive intangibles and upside. And Will Wade turned him into a top 20 pick in the NBA draft. Arsenault has an argument for the best wing defender in the entire class. You're talking like 6'6" with nearly 7-foot wingspan, comes from, the Houston tree. So he certainly understands how to play defense. That I can guarantee you. The 3-point shooting, wasn't great last year, which you would want to see a little bit better. But you also have to remember, this is a guy who, tore his Achilles at age 19, and now is going to be another season removed from that. Likely, some of the explosiveness I would expect to come back a little bit. He's the type of guy, if Wade's going to play some of these 1-3-1s in these trappy zones, like you put a guy at his length at the point of attack. And even if he doesn't pan out, you have Kadir Copeland. Oh, yeah, another lengthy 6'6", kind of just absolute demon defender. He's more the on-ball guy, I would say, like point forward kind of ish, offensively compared to Arsenault. But yeah. Oh, and then Trey Holloman. I'm not going to say that Trey Holloman's the greatest basketball player ever. He's the guy you love when he's on your team. You just despise him whenever you play against him. Like, he's just a dogged defender. He's a little undersized, but he kind of makes up for that. Like high assist rate, efficient from three. Can't really, ask for a whole lot more. And then you mentioned Paul McNeil. Brother, Paul McNeil is a gasser offensively. This dude, this was like a really high pedigree guy. I think he was like the highest scorer in North Carolina high school basketball history, if I'm not mistaken. He comes into NC State. Kevin Keats doesn't play him. Well, Kevin, that's why you don't have a damn job right now, because this guy has incredible juice off the bench. I ran a query where I looked up.
Started in their scrimmage, Gav.
Yeah, I looked up like on a Torvik query how many guys had a 4+ offensive box plus per minus, but played like less than 20% of season minutes.
Yeah,
and basically the guys that show up on that list are like Bryce Hopkins, Latrell Wrightsell, some really, really good offensive players. That's the kind of gas this guy has. This is if he comes along, this NC State, I thought I was going to be trendy early in the summer saying this is the third best team. Now it's almost getting baked into the line. This is a very trendy team. So yeah, they are going to guard their absolute ass off if they can find any spacing and rim protection. Rebounding will probably burn them a couple games, running those trappy amoeba stuff. It's tough to get bodies on guys when the shot goes up. So, they're going to lose a couple games to rebounding. They're going to lose a couple games to spacing. But, man, they're going to be one of the worst teams to face for an offense any given night in the ACC.
Yeah, old team too. They're probably going to start 5 seniors. Alan Breed's a 5th-year senior. And a lot of players coming from just winning programs, right? You bring in guys from Houston, a couple guys from a really good McNeese team, Texas Tech, Sparty. Really, really like this roster here. All right, we got 18 teams. We got to keep moving. Let's go to Notre Dame. 15 and 18 last year, 98 to Ken Pom. Torvik's got him 66 to start the season here, Gav. Ken Pom's got him 77th. They lose Tay Davis. They do bring in a top 20 freshman, which is pretty rare for Notre Dame, and Carson Tout from Northern Arizona. What do you think about Notre Dame this year?
They improved on Ken Pom by 20 spots, but I didn't love the season they had, right? It was hurt by injuries for sure. A guy like Marcus Burton, I'm surprised he came back when we saw that injury live at Players Era, like the way a guy literally fell on his straight knee. But, you pair him with one of the better scoring off-ball guys in Shrews. It's almost like Braden and Fletcher diet kind of to an extent with those two. They'll be there all 4 years, Burton and Shrews. But the front court was really the issue, and especially defensively. That's really what fell off last year and kind of what suffered for Notre Dame. And Shrews has a scheme that is very friendly towards pushing folks away from the bucket, and teams are still scoring on them. So that's really where they have to make strides. Tay Davis bailed their asses out a lot last year offensively. Not only as the second guy to Burton, but especially when Burton was out. So, yeah, does Carson Tout, a 6'7" guy from Northern Arizona? I understand, he has the second best defensive rebounding percentage nationally. It's also in the Big Sky, and he shot 38.9% from the free throw line. How many guys have we talked about who shot 200 threes and made over 40%? This guy didn't shoot 40% from the free throw line. So, he may just get hack-a-shack late in games by teams and maybe get run off the floor. I don't know about Notre Dame. Harrelson's a weird fit, right? Super athletic guy who needs to be in the open floor. Notre Dame's going to crawl it. It's a really funky fit. I don't really see them kind of cracking, the top 70-ish.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too, Mike. The defense was really bad last year. 121st to Ken Pom, 286th inside the arc. What do you got for us with Notre Dame?
Yeah, when Shrews first took over, every single year, it seems like you're having the same conversation about this team. It's like, is this the year? Is this the year? They look pretty good on paper. Is this going to be the year? And it never ends up being the case. And you look at the roster and in college basketball now, you need to bring in transfers to make your team better every single year. You can't just bring back the same core. It just doesn't work anymore. Did they bring in enough to make them better compared to last year? I don't know. So I don't think there's enough here to warrant us being excited about them possibly improving. Yes, Burton's a great basketball player. Yes, Shrewsbury is a flamethrower and is a great off the ball player, but They still didn't address the massive interior defense problems from last year, and they didn't really get too much better fit-wise from bringing in new guys. So, it's going to be the same kind of story from what we saw the last few years. And I do like Shrewsbury as a coach, but I think the floor is kind of set, but I don't think the ceiling moves at all with this team. I'm really interested to see how Harrelson and even Sir Muhammad, who was a highly touted recruit last year for them, didn't do much, if they are able to bring this team to another step forward. But I think early returns kind of trends towards no.
Yeah. Sir Muhammad had to start a couple games last year, 84 O rating.
Yeah.
He also shot 40% from the free throw line. Yeah, I just don't see much upside with this team. Let's keep them moving here. Let's go to Pitt, a team that we were talking about earlier today, Gav. But we'll start with you on this one, Mike. 17-15 last year, 63rd at KenPom. Capel's back. Torvik's got them 75th, and KenPom's got them 63rd. They lose a ton, right? Their entire backcourt here, Lowe, Leggett, and Damian Dunn are all gone. The Diaz-Graham experiment is over, and they bring in Barry Dunning from South Alabama, DeMarco Minor from Oregon State, who had a solid season last year, and a couple pieces from Iowa State. What do you think about Pitt here, Mike?
Yeah, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this team. Capel's definitely on the hot seat, especially how talented that team was last year. I mean, you have a team that has Lowe, Leggett, and Dunn in your backcourt, and you're turned into an absolute dumpster fire down the stretch. They definitely underperformed last year. I remember watching them against Wisconsin at the beginning of the year, and you're like, wow, this team can compete with the top 40, top 30 teams in the country. And then you watch them down the stretch, and this is the worst team in the ACC. So it seems like as far as roster construction, Capel kind of panicked here and kind of went the complete opposite of his construction from a year ago, where he's going a little more bigger and defensive minded and getting grittier players. DeMarco Minor is a pretty gritty player on the perimeter. You bring in Deshaun Jackson from a tough Iowa State team to kind of protect the rim. Not going to give you much offensively. Neither of these guys are going to give you much offensively. The big question with Pitt is, and this is a theme throughout the ACC, is how the hell are they going to score the rock? Right? It's going to be a lot of Brandon Cummings, who's super young and unproven, or maybe Amari Witherspoon, the freshman off the bench. I don't know how they're going to score. Are they going to play through Cam Corrin? Maybe is he their best player offensively? I just don't know how they're going to put the ball in the hoop. This KenPom offensive efficiency number could be in the 200s. I think this is trending downward for Capel in Pittsburgh, unfortunately.
Yeah, Gav, KenPom's got them the 56th best offense coming into the season. That is surely not going to stick. Just like their hot start, where they got up to 12th or 15th at KenPom after beating Ohio State. What do you got for us on Pitt here?
AI chatbot says this might be one of the most overrated teams on the entire list, especially when you factor in that Deshaun Jackson is away from the team with a medical issue and is out pretty much indefinitely. They got up to 12th in KenPom last year. Can you believe that? When you were talking about that Wisconsin game earlier in the year when they played in that West Virginia ballroom or whatever, they were 12th in KenPom at that point. But from January 6th on, they were 107th in Torvik. It was pretty eject. It was under the radar eject. Corrin's your only returner. He had the worst regularized adjusted plus minus of any starters, worst on offs. Dunning, I don't know, it was 31.7% from three. Minor can't shoot. Cummings is kind of interesting, right? 138.90 rating in 10 tiered A games. That's not an insignificant sample in 1 year. It's a much different role than he'll play this year. But he had as many 30-point games as PJ Haggerty, Chaz Lanier, Jameer Watkins, RJ Davis, and RJ Luis. One. But that's just a dumb stat I pulled from him. He had just under 13 points per game in his 4 starts. He's probably the only bright spot on this team. This team, I want to say, is probably even outside the top 125. As currently constructed without Deshaun Jackson, this may be just above Boston College, like 150th type range.
Yeah, they're going to be so bad. They won't be able to
They may
score.
be 100 spots overrated as currently constructed.
Yeah, can we fade them early?
I don't love the Youngstown State. I'm a little bit lower on them than their ranking, but I made legit. I was talking about in the Discord. I may just blind fade them 6 to 8 first games of the year, and until their net rating, regularizes. So I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, week 2 they're at West Virginia, only projected as a 4-point dog, kind of like
or
that.
even unders, right? Like we'll see when the numbers come out.
I do like Cummings. I think he's going to be, a solid player, especially just kind of rates wise and just like stats, just because he's going to have to kind of do it all. So I'm keeping
Real quick,
a DFS guy for the beginning of the year. Yeah.
I would think that Saulipo, the freshman, is going to start. He's I believe, Australian. And basically plays basketball like a rugby player. He was pretty good in FIBA for Australia. He's just an absolute bowling ball downhill. Going to be a little bit of a free throw merchant, but he is a guy that I would imagine comes in cheap on DFS that we're probably looking at, early on for him.
Yeah, well, they don't want to use these other guys, so might as well give them a shot. Let's go to a team that I'm really high on, SMU, 24-11. They finished 50th at KenPom, just missed the tournament last year. Torvik 57th is where they're starting the season. KenPom 43rd. We'll go to you first, Gav. I really like the top 6 of this team. They retain the backcourt here, and we've talked about some bad backcourts in this conference. Boopy Miller and BJ Edwards has got to be one of the best in the conference here. They bring in Corey Washington and Jerron Pierre. I just really like the top of the roster here. There isn't much depth, but I think the top 6, 7 are really strong.
Let me pitch you on an SMU idea, right? This team, before Boopy missed 5 games with his foot injury, they were 19-6 and 38th on KenPom, right? After that, they lose 4 of the last 7 with his health questionable. From the start of February 12th on, they were 125th in wins above bubble. So kind of and that was when the Boopy injury started. What happens? What is the narrative around this team this offseason if he doesn't get hurt and they are right around 30, 35 in KenPom, maybe even make the tourney and now return 3 starters? I think we're talking much differently about this team. Like Boopy and BJ Edwards have a claim. I'll hear arguments for second best defensive backcourt behind Uzan and Sharp in the country. BJ Edwards is an elite off-ball defender. Boopy is not like the best on-ball guy we've ever seen. He is very strong on the ball, but Edwards is kind of also really what makes it tick too. You can slide him onto on-ball guys if you need. And then you bring back Sambit, right? He's the last guy I think I'll talk about. Like he got eligible 2 games into the year last year, so he got a late start coming over internationally. He has a 5.1 fouls called per 40. So, you don't love that, but there was a lot more insurance last year.
Yeah.
Now he's going to have a full off season. He's an elite rim protector, elite rebounder. There's some offensive upside outside of just putbacks. So just by that core 3 alone, this is a team I really like. I think they are we've been talking about this team sucks, that team sucks. I really do like SMU. I think they're a top 40 team coming into the year. KenPom came in a little bit hotter than Torvik. Torvik 57 is definitely way too low on him, but there's a lot to like about this team.
Yeah, I agree. Are you with us, Mike? You're going to pour some cold water on this.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. When I look at this roster and even watching them play last year, I like the individual pieces, but I don't like how they fit together, right? You look at what the backcourt's going to look like here. You have Boopy Miller, BJ Edwards, and Jerron Pierre from Jacksonville State. All these guys need the ball in their hands and have massive usage rates. For me, when you're building a roster, that's just too many cooks in the kitchen, right? I think Jerron Pierre had 30% usage rate last year. And BJ Edwards was best when the ball was in his hands, especially in transition. I just can't really get behind, a backcourt with so many guards that need the ball in their hands to be successful. And then like you look at Yedigloo, and he's somebody who also like his best work comes when his back's to the basket in the post, right? So like him just sitting there getting fed the ball. Like I don't know how the pieces fit together. But like the talent is certainly there. And like even if you look at the freshman class, it's probably one of the better freshman classes they've had in a long time.
Yeah.
I love Jaden Toombs. I'm sad that he's hurt to start the year, but he's one of those like 6'8", 6'9" kind of point forwards, like reminds you of like a Trenton Wofford or a Naz Reid, where I'm going back to the old LSU days. Like he's one of those types of players. Derek Walker, right, is like one of those type of point forward players. Like I love those guys in the college game. And then they also have 2 top 130 guys coming in as well. So like super, super talented team. Sam Walters comes over from Michigan. I think he's hurt right now, but at least provides like somebody who's a flamethrower as a shooter. But like, I don't know. I don't know why I have this feeling where I just don't like the way the pieces fit together just because of the high usage rate of all the guards.
Yeah, I do get those concerns, and there is definitely a lack of depth here after the top 6, 7 guys. I will say with the current injuries, Mike, this team is going to force a ton of minutes early to their starting 5 for DFS. So something to look out for there. I think that they've got upside to be like top 4. I mean, SMU's got a ton of dough to spend. We've seen it in college football. We're seeing it here with the recruits coming in. I think SMU is going to be a force in this league for years to come. Let's go to a less exciting team, Stanford. 21-14 last year, 81st to Ken Pom, 11-9 in conference. Torvik's got him 103 to start the season. Ken Pom 89th. Mike, we'll go right back to you here. They lose Renault, massive loss at NBA player. There's just not much on this team. Pretty young team overall, too. Lots of returning minutes, but are they good returning minutes?
Yeah, this is one of the weirder ones in the whole conference to kind of break down, right? Because, first of all, let's start with Kyle Smith and how awesome of a coach he is. They finished 11-9 in ACC last year with basically one player, with Maxi Renault. The rest of the roster was not very good. Looking at his last 15 seasons, he's beat his Ken Pom ranking 13 of those 15 times, which is just insane. So like you said, Steve, they've returned a large percentage of their roster, which is weird in today's day and age, especially from a team that wasn't too good. And the only really talent that they brought in were these 2 Division II transfers, and Jeremy Dent-Smith and AJ Rahosi, I think you pronounce his last name, who both are supposed to have high pedigree. Well, I'm sorry, not high pedigree, but were very productive at the Division II level. And I said it before, that could translate. But like outside of those 2 transfers, like you don't get a lot of production from last year's team. Like it's Benny Gaylor, it's Ryan Aguilar, it's Chisholm Akpara, who I think has some upside, but hasn't really proven anything at the high major level. So the roster is nothing to bat an eye at, but looking at the coaching staff, looking how great Kyle Smith has been, looking at the upside from these D2 transfers that we don't know much about. They bring in some international freshmen as well. Krister Skrinda, I've heard some good things about, some mobile 6'11" guy. So like I think there could be some pieces here paired with how good Kyle Smith has been to like not finish in that bottom quartile of the ACC. So I'll probably be betting Stanford a lot this year just based off that.
Yeah, interesting roster here. The 3-star freshman is going to start at point guard, Ebuka Okori. They actually played a scrimmage tonight. He did start, had 17 points. Chisholm Akpara, 20-6. All right. Someone's got to score. So we track fantasy points per minute for every, projected contributor, Mike, and this team's got the lowest average of any.
Not surprising. Yeah, not surprising.
Benny Gaylor, 0.64, Agarwal, 0.69, Donovan Young, 0.49, Aiden Kamen, 0.52. Just not much upside on this team, Gav. Good coach. You lose, your only real dominant player. There isn't much here.
You also have to understand that Stanford has to be viewed at from a lens in the NIL era of they will inherently have higher retention year to year, because not only are they not producing a ton of NBA guys, but it's also a school that when kids go to Stanford, you're not being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go leave Stanford and go to Mississippi State, or kids are staying at Stanford, so they inherently need that. Now, they have a ton of retention, but you lose all three of your double-digit scores. So if you finish 81st with that team, Kyle Smith, certified ball knower, certified. I mean, but I don't understand how this team is 89th in KenPom when the team last year was 81st with an NBA guy and two other double-digit scorers. So they're probably 20-ish spots overrated. Just the only thing they have going for them is they're not Boston College and don't have a better coach than Earl Grant. So,
that's enough on Stanford. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to Syracuse. 14-19 last year, 115th at KenPom. Big jumps expected by both Torvik and KenPom here, 61 and 68, Gav. They bring in Nate George, who we touched on earlier. Last season just kind of went off the rails for them. Getting a healthy Donnie Freeman back, I think, is going to be massive for Syracuse. Gav, we'll start with you.
Yeah, they dropped 47 spots in KenPom last year. Not great, Bob, but 321st in shot selection. They were 155th in Bart Torvik during the month of December without JJ Starling. So it was just a shitty ass team. The thing that bugs me out is it's totally different from last year, right? 2 years ago when they had who's the guy? Judah Mitz. It was turn you over. It was prevent rebounds. And last year was get on the offensive glass, don't guard anybody, and hope that JJ Starling can bail us out. I think bringing in Nate George to move Starling off the ball will definitely help this roster. Like when Starling was off the ball at Notre Dame next to Prentice Hubb his first year, I believe. So, Nate George is your pure point guard, 35% assist rate, 34% from three, and was only assisted on 45% of those three-point makes. So, that's an incredibly low number and implies that it's a guy that can and should be creating on his own at that percentage. So, that core with Donnie Freeman, if he qualified on minutes, would have had the third highest defensive rebounding percentage in the country last year, and was also serviceable from three. And here's the last thing I'll add is in the 14 games that Donnie Freeman played, right, he faced 3 top 10 teams, Texas Tech, Tennessee, and Maryland, and he faced 5 more top 100 teams. So it wasn't like he was just beaten up against, Colgate and Iona up in the Northeast and stuff like that. He really showed well against a good sample.
Yeah, I think he's just a dead nut breakout guy here, Mike. What do you think about him and the rest of this roster?
Yeah, absolutely. Donnie Freeman is going to be in beast mode all year this year. I like the roster on paper, but the thing I get worried about, and Gav kind of alluded to this, is does Adrian Autry have any identity as a coach? They're all over the place, whether they're focusing on defense and keeping people out of the paint, or if they're getting up in transition, are they shooting more shots than usual? I just don't know the game plan on a game in and game out basis, and it's really baffling to watch. But there is some hope. I think, like you said, bringing JJ Starling off the ball and having a facilitator like Nate George can do him wonders. JJ Starling is super talented. You just need to put him in the right place, right position. I think defensively they could be really good too. William Kyle can bang in there and provide some rim protection. The guy from UCLA. Sadiq White showed some flashes last year. We already spoke about Donnie Freeman. They have Tyler Betsy, who's a highly touted recruit coming from Cincinnati. Yep. Nate Kings can shoot from Oregon State. This team has some dudes. You have Carmelo Anthony's son coming in, maybe can provide some magic there. But it comes down to coaching here at the Syracuse team, and that's what's going to be the difference from them finishing in the top or bottom half of the ACC. And I don't know how confident I am from the 2 seasons I've seen from Adrian. Yeah,
the coaching's a concern. I do like the roster. KenPom's got this team below Pitt. I don't buy that at all. This roster's just got upside, right? In a conference without too many teams that have upside. I'm willing to buy into, the upside play here with this roster if things do click right. So I like Syracuse a decent bit. Let's go to last couple teams here. We got Virginia, full eject. New coach, Ryan Odom, stays in the area. UVA 15-17 last year, 106 Ken Palm. Torvik's out in 34th. Very aggressive ranking for Torvik here, Mike. Ken Palm 59th. What do you think about who they brought in? A couple international guys that everyone's really excited about.
Yeah, you mentioned the high Ken Palm rating. So going back to our SMU chat where I wasn't too high on SMU, I am super high on this Virginia team. I think the roster construction is awesome. I love Ryan Odom as a coach. He's a proven winner. If you look at his Ken Palm finishes, he's finished above his preseason rank 9 out of 10 times, which is insane. Yeah. I read an article this summer that he's really like going the Nate Oates route and diving into analytics. He hired a director of analytics on the team. Looking at the roster construction, I mean, the story here, the two international imports they bring in, and DeRitter and Grunlow, both of those guys are sized and know how to play the game, it seems like. And you pair that with a bona fide scorer, Malik Thomas from San Francisco, who I just sprinkled in a bet for him to have the highest point per game out of all high major conferences at 80-1, which I thought was a pretty solid bet. You bring in Dallin Hall, who is a veteran quarterback from BYU to run the show, who kind of split time last year, but I think in a full role, he can be a little more productive. You bring in Jakari White from North Dakota State, who shot 39% from three. And then, like, if these international guys can't offer the rim protection you need, you bring in Onyenso from Kansas State, who can probably has, I don't know how to fit it in front of me, but probably has a pretty high block percentage rate. So like, I love the roster construction. I think they can be really good defensively as well. Ryan Odom has proved at VCU that defense comes first. In a down conference like the ACC, I think Virginia can make some noise, and they have some scoring on the offensive end to do so as well.
Yeah, Onyenso at Kentucky, 16% and 15% block rates. Just has never really gotten the minutes. Gav, I know you're high on the international guys like everyone is. I do like the way that this roster fits together, and obviously a great coach coming in.
You talk about roster fit. I mean, Ryan Odom has typically played with, 2 point guards on the floor at all times. Think about Stephen Ashworth and Max Shulga at Utah State, even at Ryland Jones. Think about Zeb Jackson and Shulga and Bamisil at VCU. He did it with offense at Utah State. He did it with defense at VCU. Odom is not Ben McCollum and McCaslin. I think they're on a tier of their own with the young guys, but I think he's not only in the second tier, he might be like leading the second tier with the Darian DeVrieses of the world. This is a very high level coach. You think about the UMBC coach that beat him as a 16 seed, like, all the way back then, coming full circle. I think it starts with the Europeans, right? DeRitter, I don't think people understand. We're talking about a 22-year-old, a 22-year-old 6'8" wing with a 20% defensive rebounding rate who shot 38% from three in an elite Spanish ACB league. Grunlow is a little bit younger. He's a 6'11" rim protector, but he played in that same German league that Hannes Steinbach did. And he was, he's a young guy. He's definitely thinner, but still, fared pretty well. So the thing about it is this team is going to have elite spacing. Dallin Hall is 3 years, 35% or better from three. Devin Tillis from UCI shot 43% from three last year, to mention. So Malik Thomas is going to have infinite space underneath. Odom will play with pace on this team for sure. Yeah, I'm not going to talk anybody off an 80-1 bet. I've made some wild 80-1s this offseason, no doubt. But I mean, I'm there with Kutry. It's a team that if you are paying attention and into analytics, it is hard not to like this team. I can see where it's not as appetizing for kind of the more general eye that's just looking at kind of roster talent and whatnot. You don't know what you have from the Europeans. Malik Thomas came from USF. I mean, he led the WCC in scoring, I'm pretty sure. Elite three-point shooter is going to live at the free throw line, is going to have great spacing. So, yeah, I freaking love Virginia. I think easily in the second tier. I don't see him jumping up to the first tier, but safely in the second with UNC and NC State.
Yeah.
Yeah, and finally the tempo is going to increase at Virginia after such slow teams for so long. Let's go to Virginia Tech, my alma mater here. 13-19, just a dreadful year last year. 164 at KenPom is where we ended up. Both Torvik and KenPom have low 70s to begin the season. Last year's team just was not a high major roster. We put some more finances into the NIL, and it shows with what we were able to put together this season. Gav, why don't you talk to us about Virginia Tech?
Yeah, how much came out of the Boynton slush fund to the Vontek after that season? After he saw them score 36 points against Boston College,
had to stroke a check after that.
He just unloaded the account, and boy, did they bring in a class. I mean, it's crazy for Virginia Tech to talk about. Like Neo Avdilas is like lottery level upside. He's getting a lot of comps to better shooting Agor Demon, like one of these jumbo on ball lead guards, but he can shoot better off the ball to be able to play next to other guys. So yeah, he didn't play in the greatest Greek league. It's more above average rather than elite. But yeah, you bring in him, you bring in Amani Hansberry, super physical, two-way rebounder, good defender. He was sub 30% from three last year, but when he shoots 75% from the free throw line, I'll at least leave the light on that you make another, jump. And especially when you go to a Mike Young offense, I think there's definitely going to be plenty of spacing on this team when you bring back Shutt and Tyler Johnson? Yeah. So yeah, those are just kind of ancillary shooters. And yeah, then you bring back Toby Lawal. You talk about Bay and Dongo. Bay and Dongo was like one of the first names on my how the hell did they keep them list this offseason. Toby Lawal is in the same category, just really good, kind of all around, super athletic wing. I feel very good about this offense. I feel pretty good about the defense. Certainly one of the trendier kind of sleeper teams, and definitely can be inside the top 70 overall.
Yeah, you have to remember, Lawal didn't really start playing basketball until like a year or two before he went to VCU.
And nothing would make me happier than to come on this show and say Virginia Tech sucks ass, but no, they're actually going to be good this year.
Yeah. We didn't touch on Isaiah Pasha from Delaware, freshman of the year in his conference. Pretty big guard there too. Mike, what do you think about VT?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to think that they're going to improve from last year. And honestly, like Mike Young, they finished 8-12 last year with that roster. It's pretty impressive, to be honest. This team had literally nobody last year. The major story here is Neo Avdilas coming over from overseas. I think the offense is going to run through him, and I'm really excited to see how Mike Young kind of uses him as kind of that point of attack. He has some size. He can pass the ball. He can really score. He should be one of the better players in the conference. And his surrounding cast has improved from last year for Virginia Tech. So, I trust Mike Young. I think they'll finish somewhere in the middle of the ACC, kind of around that like Clemson, Syracuse, Notre Dame kind of range. But it's definitely going to be improvement from last year.
Yeah, got lucky to get Avdilas. He basically came over because he played overseas with Ahmed Hill and Justin Robinson, if you remember those guys from VT. Jalen Bedford.
From Buzz Williams, right?
Yep. Bedford comes over too. I think he's going to be a good bench scorer. He was good at UNLV and Oral Roberts. So, tentatively excited about this team. Last year was just such a kick in the balls that, any improvement will be fun. All right, let's round it out with Wake Forest. Speaking of kicking the balls, first team last year, 21-11, 72nd at KenPom. Mike, this team probably lost Gav and I more bets than any team.
I'm in the same boat as you guys
in the country. Torvik's got him 68 to start the year. KenPom all the way up at 49. So pretty big discrepancy there, Mike. What do you think about the roster turnover here? The Salas, Hildreth, Reed combo is out the door. The Tyler Johnson experiment did not work out. What do you think about Wake coming in?
Yeah, I really don't want to talk about this team. because they're the biggest tease in college basketball. They're like that new shiny toy that someone dangles in front of your face and go for it.
Yep,
It's just like never what you expect. So again, like they bring in some intriguing pieces, and like Steve Forbes has been known to create these gems in the backcourt, right? Like Tyree Appleby, Alondas Williams, Hunter Salas. Like, who's it going to be this year? Is it going to be Miles Colvin? Is Nate Calmes going to take that step? Is it going to be Juke Harris? Maybe Oma Mabilu? Like, these guys all have that kind of upside potential, and we've seen Steve Forbes do it. But like, besides the Jake Laravia year, it's always been a disappointment. I don't see upside on the defensive end for this team. Like, they bring in Cooper Swagger from Valpo, but like, is he really going to increase their defensive upside? I don't know. Trevon Spillers is good on the boards. Doesn't really give you too much elsewhere. I mean, I guess he can step out and hit some threes. Nate Calmes is more of a scorer than a facilitator. Juke Harris showed flashes. They bring in Mekhi Mason, who is probably the most meh player you can think of. So it's a bunch of question marks. It's a bunch of guys that have potential, but will they reach it in Steve Forbes' system? And it's always a coin flip. So like, I think another team with a wide range of outcomes, like we just talked about Virginia Tech. I'd be much more confident in Mike Young and Neo running that team, finish higher than this Wake Forest team.
Gav, do you remember the Michigan win? We were so hot.
I remember everything.
I bet them that game too.
Everything, brother.
Yeah.
Trust me. Everything.
Everyone was on Michigan. You know, us three are all on Wake, and then they go and just get blasted in every other like top 50 game for the rest of the season. This team couldn't shoot last year. 359 3-point percentage,
and they had some shooters too, which just makes no sense.
Yeah. I don't know what to think about this team, man. Gav, give us your Wake Forest spiel before we go to our end of the show.
Yeah, well, you guys have no choice but to stay. And if viewers are still watching this show, whether live or on playback, if you're still at this point, I apologize. I shouldn't have much to say about this team, but this is about to be a release the demons moment, right? One of the teams, you talk about how Michigan State just stuck it right to me in the Big Ten show on Tuesday. Boy, this was the team that made me look so damn stupid. I'm like, oh, outside Final Four potential. They're going to run teams down to the wire in the ACC. Okay, they beat Coppin State by 15 and scored 64 points, okay? High Point beat Coppin by 42. Miami beat Coppin by 30. George Mason beat them by 38. Penn State beat them by 48. Wake beat them by 15. Don't worry about it. It's just the first game. Then they play North Carolina A&T, 336 in Ken Palm. They lost to that dog-ass Virginia Tech squad by 28. They had 2 wins all season versus teams inside the top 300 at Ken Palm. Those 2 wins were by a combined 4 points. Wake beat them by 15. They didn't cover. Somehow they beat Michigan without Tyler, without Tyler, and then Spillers, Salas, and Efton in foul trouble. Ass pull that somehow. Then they just get absolutely slammed at Cintas by Xavier.
Yes.
Oh no, it's still.
I think
okay.
I bet them that game too.
Yeah,
it's still okay. Don't worry about it. Well,
and the Florida game and the A&M game that he's about to bring up.
Then they beat 349 South Carolina Upstate by 5 points. 349th in Ken Palm. They trailed by 6 with 8 minutes left to go in that game, and we just said, no, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. Oh no. Then they beat 338 Western Carolina by 13. They then beat 337 Detroit Mercy by 10. These are teams that, as a legit power conference club, you should be beating by 30 minimum, okay? Mercy, in that loss, jumped 23 spots in Ken Palm. Alone, just in losing the game, jumped 23 spots in Ken Palm. Mercy lost to IU Indy by 34 last year. IU Indy was 312th in Ken Palm.
I knew this was coming, Mike. Sorry.
What'd you do to the chatbot? Did you make it angry?
Yeah.
I am so mad at Steve Forbes. I have had 5 months to stew on this, and I am so sick of his shit. This is not about the team that I'm about to be saying, oh, it's okay, Steve. You okie doke me last year. This is definitely the team. No, this is not the team. Like Nate Calmes, yeah, you come in from Washington State, top 100 assist percentage, top 300 steal percentage, super low efficiency. He's the only hope with the Steve Forbes lead guard whisper. Outside of that, God bless you. Like, Schweiger is a 6'10" guy from Valpo. He only shot 27% from three, was an 85% free throw shooter. Maybe he's got a shot. No, there's no team, if you couldn't tell, that I despise more in the ACC than Wake Forest.
Oh, that was good. That was good. You know, I'm glad that you exercised those demons there, Gav.
I needed to big time. That was cathartic and therapeutic. I won't even need to go see my shrink now.
We should have started with Wake Forest if I knew that was coming. All right, let's wrap this up with some all-conference stuff. I've got mine here on the screen. Mike, we were talking beforehand. You know, there's 3 pretty much locks here for the first team. And then I think you could kind of go a bunch of different ways after that. I've got Burton, Darian Williams, Cam Boozer, and then I went with Renault and Vestar, you know, some upside swings there with the other 2. What do you think about the first team all conference?
Yeah. So I think there's 2. I think there's 3 guaranteed. Well, not guaranteed, but I think there's 3 early favorites. Definitely Boozer, definitely Darren Williams. I wouldn't put Marcus Burton as a guarantee there. You know, I think he's good. I don't know. I think he's going to put up the points, but like, I just can't get behind putting a Notre Dame player on first team all ACC. And, you know, maybe he switches things up and tries to facilitate a little more. I don't know. But I have Williams. I have Boozer. I have 2 guys from Louisville just because I think their stats are going to be ridiculous. I have Mikael Brown and Conwell. And then I have one of the international imports as the 5th guy, which I don't know if it's going to be either DeRitter or Neo, but I think one of them is going to have a big year and make first team ACC.
Neo would be fun, Gav. What do you got?
Yeah, I think at least for all conference, I think Burton's pretty lockish. Like he just averaged damn near 20 a game. You know, while sustaining an injury, I think him, Darian, and Boozer pretty lockish. Then I think it really comes down to, one of the Louisville, Conwell or Brown, one of the UNC, Vesar, Trimble, maybe even Caleb Wilson, dude. I mean, who knows? I'm not even out on that idea. So I think you need one of those 2 or Renault. And so I went with Renault and I went with Conwell and I left the UNC guys off the second team.
Nice.
I like the Renault call. That's my guy.
Yeah, we're all high on Renault here. We talked about the breakout players throughout. You know, we're going a little long here. I've got Vesar, you know, the slam dunk guys up top, Vesar, Ngangba, Evans, Donnie Freeman. I think all 3 of us here, you know, just a awesome runway for a great season for him. Gav talked about Carter Welling and his upside. Brandon Cummings is going to have to score a bunch for that Pitt team. Any guys that you would want to add as breakout players here, Mike?
No, we touched about all of them. I mean, I'm just looking across the board. Like someone on Cal is going to have to score. Maybe it's Justin Pippen. Like maybe he breaks out as that sophomore jump. But yeah, these are the guys we touched on. Brandon Cummings was the guy I had written down. Also Donnie Freeman, but he's a little more obvious. But yeah, this is a good list.
Gav, any disagreements and any, you know, you always have a greasy one, so hit us.
So Matty Sissoko was a top 100 offensive rebounder, top 100 defensive rebounder, was drafted. And what if I told you that Lee Dort actually had better rates than him on both sides?
Lee Dort.
and had a better block rate and only has a terrible Loyola Maryland big behind him rather than an NBA, or at least the guy that played in Summer League. I don't know where Sissoko is now. He's probably in Bulgaria or whatever, but Lee Dort, greaseball breakout of the conference.
Lee Dort. Well, Mike said that someone's going to have to score for Cal.
I don't know if I want to say 10-8 or 8-10 with a couple blocks.
That's a good DFS player right there.
Yeah. Keep the light on for Lee Dort. Mike, thanks for joining us again. Gav, you know, we got through all 5. If you missed the other ones, they'll be on the RPS YouTube channel, and I'm going to tweet out a tweet with all 5 that I'm going to pin to my Twitter tomorrow. Follow Mike on Twitter, Mike Kutry CBB. and make sure to sign up for his Dub Club to get all his winners throughout the season. Really, really good on props for years on end now, Mike. So thanks for joining us. Any last words before we head out, Mike?
No, I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you throughout the season. Best of luck with your bets in DFS, except in the tournaments I'm playing in. But we'll talk. Take care, guys.
Yep. All right. For Gav, for Mike, I'm Steve Boynton. We'll see y'all later.